Welcome everyone, and I'm here today sharing the space for the second time. What a pleasure, with the fantastic Beth. She was part of the Jade community for quite a few months, and she's one of our, let's call her, success recovery story. But first of all, without further ado, hello Beth, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. It's nice to be here again to talk more about the recovery journey and my life now.
And it's lovely seeing your face. And if you ladies would have seen Beth 1 year ago, she looks so different. Like her energy is so much different, even on screen, which is amazing. So before we get started with all the questions and the nitty-gritty, can you let us know where you are in your cycle and how many periods you have had since we finished with the community?
Yeah, so I've had 5 periods since I finished in the community. The first few were quite long cycles, but the past 2 have been within normal range, so sort of like 26 days long, 27 days long. So right now I've been doing a lot of like cycle tracking, so just tracking my cervical mucus and also my temperature. So I've just ovulated, so I'm probably in like the luteal kind of phase, just starting to feel the energy dip a little bit. So
I love
definitely know.
Yeah, and I love to hear that women are really getting that knowledge in terms of the period, how it works. And I love hearing terms like ovulation, luteal phase, and I can understand the energy deeper because it means that you're getting very intuitive and in connection with your menstrual cycle. Now, for all the people that are very curious to know, how did your training and your nourishment change since getting your first period? If it has
So
changed.
yeah, so I sort of kept it the same for the first 3. Like I didn't increase any, I didn't add any more training sessions or anything like that, because I was really like, I was worried because the previous year I'd had 1 period and then not got any subsequent ones. So I kept everything completely the same. And then after I had the 3rd period, I'd say I've got a little bit more relaxed by allowing myself to have fun with exercise and doing like more exercise. Like, for example, I've been going climbing, like just bouldering, and I've started doing a bit of running. But I'm just mindful of like my like energy levels and not trying to like do too much to tire myself out. The food's not really changed. If anything, I'm eating more and I'm more relaxed, like, and it's just making sure that I've got like enough fuel, because I've been doing more, like I think I've been eating more than when I recovered. So and
Yeah,
I think be quite rigid with like, oh, I can't have this food, or I can't have this food because I've had bread for breakfast, I can't have it for lunch. And there's just no like rules around that anymore. And I've also started eating like red meat as well, which I wouldn't have eaten before. So just
yeah.
very flexible.
Because I remember that you came from a past of being a vegetarian, and then we had a conversation about introducing some type of meat like chicken, and now you have moved on to even eating red meat.
Yeah.
Your relationship with food have changed dramatically over the past years, because you shared before that you also had a disorder eating behaviors and an eating disorder a couple of years ago, and your body has been changing quite a lot over the past 24 months, let's say. How would you describe the relationship that you have with your body at the moment?
I'm so happy with like my body right now. Like I think it's the most happy I've ever been. Like I think when I'd like recovered and got my period back, I was still a bit like unsure about my new body. I think it's right that obviously like your body is completely focusing on getting your menstrual cycle back and can't do anything like build muscle or anything like that. So I'd say I definitely noticed like more progress in the gym since I've got my period back. But yeah, I think I'm just generally more relaxed about my body, and I'm not like, now that I've removed all of the clothes that don't fit me and anything that doesn't serve me, and I've pretty much stayed, I've not really changed, like I've stayed the same weight. It's been quite static, and instead of seeing that as like a, oh no, like that's my weight now, I want to lose or I want to change it, I'm more just like, okay, if my weight's steady, then it means that like I've not done too much, I've not under eaten. So I'm just like really more focusing on that than like going, oh, I need to lose or I need to gain.
What has allowed you to make that mindset shift? Because for so many years you are pretty restrictive in terms of your food intake, and also you're rigid with your exercise routine, trying to fit in a size that didn't belong to you anyway. So
yeah,
can you tell us more about how you got to this place where you are quite as acceptant of what your body looks like?
Yeah, I think I just more see my body as like being strong and like what it's able to do, and like I think like viewing it as like, okay, well, if I was not eating properly in order to be a smaller size, then I'd think, how weak would I feel in my workouts? Like I think I'm just not interested in the fact, like I'm just not interested in under eating anymore, and I'm not interested in feeling the way that I did before. So then I think it makes me more accepting of my body, and then just feeling like, obviously it helps when people compliment your body, but I know that that's not, you should find that within. But I think I'm starting to find it within, and like I'm not as critical as I used to be, because I used to be very critical of myself. But now that I'm not critical, then I think, yeah, I'm just much happier.
What did your critic sounded like back in the past? Which were the kind of things or thoughts that you told yourself almost every day?
Just like, oh, like you've put on weight, you look like you've just gained fat, you've not gained any muscle, like it's all just body fat, like you're not skinny anymore, like all of these different things that was said, that I said to myself. And then like, oh, even just like my face, I felt quite insecure about my face because it was no longer like as defined as it was before. So I kind of just thought that like my face is fat.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing, because these are common thoughts that most women have. And it's also about the quantity of the time that you spend with those thoughts. Because, for example, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you look at your face and think, well, it's not as, I don't know, it's different than it was before. And then you go on, you move on with your day, then it's not such a big deal. But if you spend your day just checking your face, just making sure that it's not changing, that's quite stressful in and on itself. So you described the HA recovery journey as a self-discovery journey. Can you tell us more, especially for all the women that don't know you, that were not part of the HA community, of how your life has changed since you got that first period, the only period in June 2022, I think it was, to then finding your natural cycle this year in 2023?
Yeah. So like obviously when I was joining the community, I was quite like I was in like a difficult job. I was health visiting, which was quite strenuous, and I was like walking with weighing scales on my back, and it was just quite a stressful job. So that was like I finished that job in February this year. Well, I started a lecturing job in February this year. So I guess my job's changed. Just generally being like more flexible. Like I used to come home from work and I used to be quite OCD about wanting to like get everything done in the house. So just like, if anyone knew me when I was on the calls, like I used to be quite like, oh, I have to come home and do this, and nothing, I would never let myself sit down. And then I just felt like drained all the time. So I definitely say that I've got more energy, but also like I think it's been this journey, and also I feel a lot stronger in the gym and things like that because I've been strength training. I just feel like my mindset is so much strong, like I'm so much stronger mentally. So I was due to get married next year, but I called off my engagement probably about 8 weeks ago because I just realized in my mind that like I wasn't getting what I deserved. And I don't think I would have realized that hadn't I have been through this journey and gained all the mental strength that I have gained. So I think that was like that has been a big thing. And I don't think I could have done it without this journey.
Thank you for sharing, Beth. That's incredible. And also opening up in front of an audience about what you just experienced. That talks a lot about yourself, being pretty strong mentally and being very brave. You also mentioned that you would have not called off the engagement 1 year ago because you didn't feel strong enough. What has changed? Meaning, what does it mean for you now to be stronger? How does your day change now that you're in this position where you know that you deserve from life and from other people?
I just think that like maybe I used to just be like wanting to please everybody and like put everyone's needs above my own, and then that's when I was like obviously compromising my own needs. So now that I know that like I've learned to put myself first, then it becomes a lot easier. I also think like back when I maybe met my partner, like I was quite insecure in myself, so like maybe I just would have accepted anything because it was a bit of like love and attention, whereas now like I think it's made me have a lot of clarity. Obviously having my hormones has given me a lot of clarity, and I think I can't just like hold on to something because I want children and I want a marriage. Like it has to be the right person to do that. And I used to think that no one would want me. So, but now I'm realizing that's not true anymore. And that was just my brain saying like, oh, like putting me down constantly. Whereas now I don't feel like that.
So it sounds like that now that you've started to really love yourself and accept yourself, you don't really need that external validation.
Yeah.
And it's very common also with women that suffer from hypothalamic amenorrhea and anxiety as well, to have that type A personality, being a perfectionist, being a people pleaser, and being very hard on yourself. And would you recognize those traits in you?
Yeah, like I used to, obviously, if I'd not like made my partner's like lunch for the next day and he'd said, what will I have for lunch? Then I used to think that it was my fault. And like I used to get like very like anxious and like, oh, like I've not done that, like well, I'm not good enough and all of this. Whereas now I'm just like, well, he can make his own because he's a grown man, like and it's not my fault. Like I can like obviously help out from time to time, but it's not my responsibility. So I think just learning that it's not my fault and it's not always my responsibility to like be on top of everything in life.
So in terms of this self-discovery journey, really learning that you can prioritize yourself, what has really made the biggest difference when you were in the HA community? How did you manage to get to this place where you feel stronger than ever and you can really stick to your guns? Because there are women that seek support, but they still don't get to this place. So what do you think that has made a difference for you?
I think just like, even when I got the first period and I was worried about the second, just like repeating like positive mantras to myself, like that really helped. Like I think my brain really absorbed, like obviously saying that I'm strong and that I'm capable and all of these things, like just to get into that mindset. Then I guess just like habits, just like building new habits that aren't harmful and that are like nourishing to myself and my body, and just like not taking things seriously, like and enjoying like life, because I used to just be constantly like looking towards the future and like worrying about what will come next. And I think I really missed out on like living it like from day to day, whereas now I'm just living from day to day, like nothing really seems like unachievable.
Yeah, it's okay to plan for the future, but you don't have to worry for something that you don't even know if it's going to happen. And I remember that we had so many conversations in the past where I kept on saying, okay, Beth, you're like 6 months on the track. Can we just come back to the present moment? But it's so very easy to miss the present moment, because if we blink our eyes, we are not here anymore. And that's the only thing that is really true. And all our worries and fears, as we said plenty of time before, they're just projections of what happened in the past. And you have decided to really stop those type of thoughts and behaviors, and you have decided to find something that was more resourceful, let's say. Also, conversations that we had that I would like to open up now also with our audience is about dyspareunia, which is pain during sex. Is something that I personally experienced, which is one of the reasons because I wanted to bring up this topic, and it's something that you experienced as well. Can you tell us how it impacted you and also your past relationship over the years?
Yeah, so I think like I first started noticing like when I was going through this recovery journey, like I didn't really feel like I wanted to have sex anyway, because my hormones weren't flowing and I didn't really have the desire. But then when I started trying to like implement it and like make an effort with my partner, every time like we obviously tried, like I just felt like I'd just lay there and like I'd just be like terrified, like because I'd be worried that it'd hurt, and I'd just sort of like, obviously we'd try, and then I would be like, it's just not, like I'd just be completely closed up. And then I guess like I'd just be like lying there like thinking like, when like will this end, and like all those kinds of thoughts. I was seeing a pelvic floor physiotherapist because at one point my pelvic floor was has been tight, so obviously that's causing painful sex as well. And I was having like a lot of when I was walking fast, I was like having leakage as well. So that was the main sort of like reason I went to see the physio. But then I just think as like my anxiety is reduced and I'm learning to like be a bit more freer, like it's just completely like improved. I never realized that obviously the painful sex with my partner was maybe because I wasn't happy with him. Like your body's obviously very clever, and it was sending a message to me that like this isn't right, or like the relationship isn't right. So obviously since then I've had sex again and it's not been painful at all. So I think it's just crazy how like your body can like send such a strong message to you, and then your mind can be like obviously a lot later down the track. But yeah, it was not a nice experience, and it made me like avoid sex because I was just worried that it would hurt and that it wouldn't be enjoyable.
And it's crazy that we have been taught that whenever we have a feeling, we just have to go to a doctor or to a physiotherapist, and we need to fix the problem. And we don't really look within ourselves and try to find the solution first, because we don't believe that we have the power of change the situation. It sounds like a very rhetorical questions, but how did it make you feel like when you had painful sex and thinking about the future and not being able to have sex with your partner? What did it feel like?
I felt like awful, because I was like, well, how am I going to make a baby if like I can't even get through, like I can't even have like sex without like it hurting, or like me physically like dreading there, or like laying there like stiff and like a statue, because I just couldn't face it. And then in the end it just meant that like we just avoided it completely. So it wasn't like, I think that obviously like didn't help the relationship and like create a distance, but I think it made me feel like I was incapable and that it was my fault. But then obviously since like going through that process of feeling a lot stronger, like I recognize that it definitely wasn't like my fault or anything to do with me. It was just what my body was like telling me, and like
and your body was basically picking up on a feeling of safety, and was closing you down for that reason. I remember specifically of this elephant in the room, not being able to have sex. And one night I was sitting in the couch and we were watching a movie, and there was this very very
Good.
interesting sex scene. And there was this awkward silence in the room. We didn't know what to do in that moment. And I just wanted to switch off the TV and run to the other room and cry. And not being able to have sex as we're meant to can have a huge impact on the relationship, but also on the relationship with ourselves. Because as you mentioned it, we think that we are the broken one. We think that we are the one that needs to be fixed, when in reality is always a combination of things, and normally comes from not having a period, so not having the actual juice to have sex, feeling unsafe and being very anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So once again, thank you for sharing. My only curiosity is, what did the doctors say back at that time? Did they always put it back on you, or did you have someone that actually told you, are you in the right relationship, or are you feeling okay? Are you safe in your body?
I don't think anyone ever said that to me, no. Like, I think I got prescribed diazepam by one of the doctors because she was like, oh, give it a try, it might help. Or like most said, oh, most people have alcohol before sex, give it a go. I was like, I don't think that's the answer, but obviously, like, it was the response of the doctor. The pelvic floor physio was actually really helpful. She gave me some tools to try and like stretch it and lengthen it, which again was mad because when I was with her, it was stretching completely normally and it was working really well. Like, obviously it got better as I was stretching it myself, but like obviously it was able to stretch, but it just wasn't doing when I was with my partner. So I guess that, yeah, I didn't really think about it until after. But yeah, no doctor ever said like, oh, are you feeling like okay in your relationship or anything like that. So,
well, I had a doctor that prescribed me with an anesthetic cream just to numb the area. I'm like, how is this gonna help? So that means that I'm not gonna feel anything. What's the point of having sex? And it's still such a male-dominant society where, well, if you're the woman, you need to figure it out so you men can have sex. And that's the narrative that sometimes is still going on, to be honest. But I'm glad that it's not your problem anymore. And how about the leaking? Are you still leaking sometimes?
No, not at all. Yeah, not even. I think it used to be when I'd like go on a fast pace, like when I'd go on a walk, but then I was like power walking and walking in a rush, whereas now like I just go on a stroll, like I don't. And that was when the leaking was really bad, when I was like rushing or like walking really fast. So that's completely gone as well.
That's incredible how your body has really self-adjusted and responded to the incredible changes that you have implemented. So, Beth, as per usual, the last question is for all the women that are trying to get the period back. They've been in the process for more than 6 months. They're getting really frustrated and they can't see a way out. And they start to self-doubt themselves about the process. What would you share with them?
I would just say, like, I've been there and it's so hard. Like, I'd say it's one of the hardest journeys that I've ever embarked on, but the most rewarding. So I think you just have to keep to your non-negotiables, like eating every 3 hours, just really like finding that confidence in yourself and your body. So just positive mantras really help me. So they're the main 2 things really. Have some non-negotiables and also just give yourself a bit of a break, because I think when you get the most frustrated, I think that's when you're the closest to getting your period back. So just give yourself time and be kind to yourself. So yeah.
Thank you. That's beautiful, and that is so very true. When you're the most frustrated, it's possibly when you're the closest to getting your period back. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And like me, so like so many of us. Thank you, Beth, for sharing this space with me again. It has been an absolute pleasure seeing you, and thank you for being here. Bye, Beth.